Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. My name is Morgue, and I am an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge to create a new world. And today we're taking a look at a banned Gnostic text known as the Sophia of Jesus Christ. We've been reading this for a while, and we're getting to a really juicy part here where Jesus is talking to the disciples, and he's about to reveal to Mary a deep secret, this secret being that the God of the Old Testament, the God of the Bible, the God that billions worship today, is actually an evil entity enslaving humanity, and Jesus is going to reveal how he and the mother of the universe, known as Sophia, this is why it's called the Sophia of Jesus Christ. It's kind of a double meaning here because Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. So it's the wisdom of Jesus Christ, the Sophia of Jesus Christ, but Sophia is a being as well, the mother of the universe. And so Jesus is going to describe how he and the mother of the universe has this plan to be able to release souls, which we are, from the bondage of this evil deity that's trapping humanity in matter to be its slave. So that's what we're going to do. We're getting started right away. As always, if you enjoy my work, please become a member. Hit the join button. You can see all the great stuff you get access to, members only videos, as well as free PDF downloads for my notes on many of my videos. Right now, there's about 6 of them out, all about inner alchemy and inner transformation. Totally free for members, so check that out. Check out my new book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind, if you want to know how to reach higher consciousness rationally and logically without the bullshit. And follow me on Spotify. Link is in the description of this video. I know that's a lot of things, but pick your favorite one and do it, or do them all, whatever you want. So let's start. We're talking today about the Sophia of Jesus Christ. As always, you can read this for free on gnosis.org. People are always like, where do you get this information? It's on gnosis.org, free to read. These are texts that were discovered in 1945 called the Nag Hammadi Library, buried near the tombs of Egypt. They date back somewhere between the 2nd and 4th century CE. Very, very old texts that were banned by the church, and someone hid them away and buried them, luckily, so we have them. They were discovered in 1945, like I said. So we're going to get started. In the previous video, Jesus described how, so I have a whole playlist on this. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. You don't have to, but to understand what we're talking about today. But brief recap, last week, Jesus was telling the disciples and describing to the disciples the eonic realms, the realms of the eons. And remember, eons doesn't mean a length of time. Eons are beings and energies and worlds, like Sophia is an eon. She's the eon of wisdom. So many different eons. These are the realms higher than heaven, the pleroma, near the realms of, within the realms of light, and how these realms are structured and what kind of beings are there, etc. That's where we left off. Now, Mary is going to ask Jesus a question. And Mary says, "Holy Lord, where did your disciples come from? And where are they going? And what should they do here?" And I really like that Mary, I love, by the way, this text has a lot of Gnostic texts too. They really give, shine a light on disciples that really weren't that emphasized in the Bible. Or like, for example, doubting Thomas in Gnosticism gets the Gospel of Thomas, which is all about the secret teachings of Jesus. Doubting Thomas in here is the one that is asking questions to Jesus. Now, to be fair, the Gospel of Thomas may not actually be referencing that Thomas specifically, but still interesting. And anyways, here we have Mary, and in Gnosticism, we know that Mary was supposed to be the successor of Jesus. In the Gospel of Mary, it talks about how Jesus told her secrets that the other disciples didn't know, and she steps up to be leader after Jesus Christ goes away, and starts teaching them the secrets of the universe. So anyway, this is just kind of cool how Mary is, and the stuff that Mary talks about in the Gospel of Mary is similar, right? So Mary's asking, where did your disciples come from? Where are they going? And what should they do? Basically, humans in general. Where did humans come from? Where are they going? And what should we do? And the Gospel of Mary is all about how to transcend the material world. It's very cool. You should check it out if you haven't. Anyway, so here we have Mary seeking deeper understanding. And this in general represents the human soul, questioning its origin. So remember, this is all symbolic. And yes, so in story format, we have Mary asking a question, but this represents what the soul should be doing. The soul should be inquiring. And Mary is the figure that's symbolizing wisdom seeking answers from divine truth. So here, like everything is a symbol. The disciples all represent souls in search of enlightenment. And this question is, where do we come from? Why are we here? Where do we go in this life? These are these questions essentially that we need to be asking to achieve gnosis. So this isn't just a passive read. This is kind of a blueprint describing what you need to do to wake up. You need to ask the same. It's not Mary asking these questions. It's the questions you need to be asking. The questions you need to be asking. Where did we come from? Where are we going? What should we do while we're here? And so Jesus is going to reply. And so what is Jesus' reply? Jesus says, it says, the perfect Savior said to them, I want you to know that Sophia, the mother of the universe, and the consort, desired by herself to bring these to existence without her male consort, but by the will of the Father of the universe, that his unimaginable goodness might be revealed, he created that curtain between the immortals and those that came afterwards, that the consequence might follow. Okay, so essentially what's saying here, Sophia is wisdom. And it says that Sophia is the mother of the universe and the consort. What is she? What do they mean by consort? If you've seen the other videos, you know this already. But Sophia is the consort of immortal man, which is not like a human, but an immortal being of light. And remember, though, they're really one being, and it says this in the text. Sophia and immortal man are a pair. They're consorts, a masculine and feminine, but they're actually one being with two aspects to them. You know, singularly a being that has both a feminine and masculine aspect. And this is reflected in all of us. We all have an inner feminine and masculine. And always remember that feminine and masculine are archetypal symbols that represent energies and patterns of behavior and understanding, not literal gender. So like when we talk about the element of water, we know that the element of water doesn't literally refer to water. It refers to the unconscious and intuition and emotions. So likewise, when we refer to male and female, it's not literally about biological sex or necessarily even the way we've culturally defined gender. Rather, it represents polarities of energies that are complementary to each other. You could think of them as like positive and negative, yin and yang, light and dark, day and night, whatever. And there's no moral, you know, one's not good and one's not bad, nothing like that. They're just different aspects that are complementary. So anyway, Sophia represents what we are archetypally signifying as the feminine. Sophia is the mother of the universe, and she's the partner of immortal man. But what she wanted to do was to create something without her male counterpart. She wanted to create something on her own by herself. So her desire to create by herself reflects this creative impulse of the soul. But limitation occurs when it's disconnected from the counterpart. So remember how I said that we all have these unions of forces within us, male and female, but it's just like, you know, opposites again, active and receptive, spirit and matter, all these different, none of these things are enemies to each other. They all go together. They're complementary. And so Sophia wants to create on her own. What happens when she creates on her own? When she creates on her own, she ends up giving birth to a dark being of chaos, Yaldabaoth, the Demiurgos, which means the creator or the artificer, the craftsman. And this is the God of the Bible. It's a dark, evil being. Now, what's really interesting about this is, I've mentioned this before, so I'll just go over it really quick. But what's kind of cool about this is you see that it almost reflects this balance that reality has to maintain. Because Sophia creates without her masculine counterpart. So like she tries to create basically like without the male energy. So in her creation without the male energy, it's almost like Yaldabaoth is created to fill that void, but in a very dark, imbalanced way, because Yaldabaoth represents like everything that would be negative or toxic masculinity, dominance, control, abuse, right? I'm not saying that that's masculine energy. I'm saying that that's what happens when masculine energy is negative, becomes toxic, when it's not balanced. Any aspect will become bad if it's not balanced. So she created without the masculine aspect. So what happened was that the masculine aspect arose, but in a very imbalanced way, because it wasn't created out of balance. It was created out of imbalance. And so that's where Yaldabaoth comes from. Yaldabaoth, Demiurgos, the god of the Old Testament. Now, what's really interesting is that Jesus, according to this gospel, comes from Sophia and her counterpart creating together. So Jesus is the son of Sophia and this the immortal man. It gets a little more complicated than that because Jesus is eternal and predates them, but an aspect of him comes forward through their union. So essentially, basically what this is saying, when Sophia creates out of imbalance, you get the evil god of the Bible. When Sophia creates with her counterpart and they create together out of balance, you get Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is created out of balance. The God of the Old Testament is created out of imbalance. Now, there's one thing that I do want to say here. Let's see. So all right. So there's a part, it says, that the defect of the female might appear, and it might come about that error would contend with her. And these became the curtain of spirit. So what is that talking about? And you'll see that a lot. Just a second. Okay, sorry, just one moment. My computer's memory is, I don't know why it keeps crashing. I need to get the page back up where I was reading from. All right, where were we? So that the defect of the female might appear, and it might come about that error would contend with her, and these became the curtain of the spirit. So essentially what this is, and you'll see that a lot, and it might seem very almost kind of sexist, because they say it a lot of times. Oh, the defect of the feminine, the defect of the feminine. What they're referring to when they say the defect of the feminine, they're referring to Sophia's active They're like saying her accident, basically, the mistake that she made, Sophia's mistake. That's what they mean by the error of the feminine. Or the defect of the feminine. There's like, okay, we need to correct the mistake that Sophia made. Now, I just to be clear, this is one, I like a lot of things about Gnosticism. There's a couple things I don't like. One of the things that I don't like is the condemnation of the material world. Another thing that I don't like is the condemnation of darkness rather than the integration of darkness. And then the other thing that I don't like is blaming Sophia as if it were a mistake or an accident. So one of the things that I love about Gnosticism is it has so many powerful feminine archetypal characters, which is completely contrary to typical Christianity, where it's like basically all men. There's some exceptions, of course, but for the most part, it's pretty patriarchal, pretty male dominated. Now, Gnosticism, you have Barbelo, the Great Mother, you have Sophia, You have Norea, you have Mary Magdalene, you have Eve. Eve isn't looked at as the sinner. Eve is looked at as a savior figure for bringing knowledge to humanity. There are just a ton of really great feminine archetypes in Gnosticism, and I love that because it really places a lot of emphasis on the power of the feminine, and this need to like integrate aspects and all that. Really cool. But still, it seems like they can't get away from, modern Christianity, or Christianity in general, blames Eve like it's the first sinner. Like, oh, Eve ate from the apple. She was the first sinner. So, oh, woman was the first sinner. And Gnosticism doesn't do that. They go, oh, Eve was actually like the first liberator. Eve is celebrated. But still, you kind of get though, but Sophia made a mistake. And I'm not a super, I don't like that. So the way I look at it is and when you understand what reality in existence is, you understand that reality goes through cycles. So we're taking a little bit of a step away from Gnosticism and looking how reality actually works so that we can see why Gnosticism is a little incomplete here. Reality is cyclical in that the end of one universe is the beginning of another. At the end of one universe, we enter into a state of total perfection and total harmony, and then we shatter that perfection and harmony to start again. Why do we do that? We do that because if we were to exist in perfect unity forever, that would be hell. If you really think about it, if you were to exist in the state that's utter perfection and utter unity, it would be as though you were the only being in existence forever with nothing to do. It would become hell. So we start the game over again and shatter like a puzzle that gets scattered so we can build it again. And we have universal cycles. We go through this. So in terms of Gnosticism, you have the perfect pleroma, the perfect realm of light. It's even called the silence. And Sophia breaks the silence by causing disharmony and asymmetry and giving birth eventually to the material world indirectly. But this isn't necessarily an evil mistake. It's actually saving, if we were to go by this narrative, it would be saving us from a state of total nothingness, where nothing ever moves, nothing ever changes, nothing ever happens. It just, we've done everything, we did everything, there's nothing to do, we're the only being. Sophia's act of shattering that balance actually saves us from a hellish state. Anyway, hopefully you get what I'm saying. Long story short, I don't like blaming Sophia. I think Sophia did a good job. Sophia's pretty cool in my book. But anyway, according to Gnosticism, she did a no-no. She's in trouble. She shouldn't have done that. So we have here, let's see. So we have this idea of the defect of the female, which I just said, it represents the imbalance. The defect of the female is imbalance that occurs when creation is attempted in isolation without harmony or union. Now, today we want more harmony and union, of course, because we're very imbalanced. But in a state of total perfect imbalance where nothing is happening because everything is perfect, that imbalance is actually what. So imagine it like this. If you had a canvas that was perfectly white, just blank, that would be perfect. It would be a perfect, but guess what? It would be really fucking boring just to look at that blank canvas. Oh, it's not. What makes the canvas interesting is when you take a black pencil or something and start making a picture. Well, you're ruining the perfection. You're introducing dark areas. You could think of those, or even as like, you could even think of the dark areas as ignorance. But that's what creates the picture. And so everything has a place. Everything has a purpose. And that ignorance in the beginning, because Yaldabaoth represents ignorance, is actually something that we need, because we need to we go through a memory wipe as well, so that we can have this experience again in a unique way. But anyway, we are at a point in the world, though, where we are now in the phase of triumphing over ignorance. We need to battle ignorance now, because we have an excess of it that is making this world very difficult to live in. So anyway, the defect of the feminine represents creation in isolation. And so this error of Sophia is about the struggle of ignorance versus wisdom, chaos, and order. And so the curtain of the spirit is this barrier created by that imbalance. So there's the curtain of the spirit is a barrier. It's kind of like the barrier between us knowing what we really are. But this also serves as a stage of the journey where enlightenment takes place, because we have to pierce the veil. We have to overcome that veil to realize and understand what we are. Okay, so from the eons above the emanations of light, and this is Jesus talking, from the eons above the emanations of light, as I have said already, a drop from light and spirit came down to the lower regions of Almighty in chaos, that their molded forms might appear from that drop, for it is a judgment on him, arch-begetter, who is called Yaldabaoth. The drop revealed their mortal forms through the breath as a living soul. It was withered and it slumbered in the ignorance of the soul. Okay, so there are basically, so they talk about a drop of light and spirit, a drop of light and spirit coming down into the realm of chaos, which is the realm of Almighty, which is Yaldabaoth, the evil Almighty God. And this is symbolizing divine essence entering into the material realm. It's a fragment of the divine spark that's placed in the chaos of the physical world. And when it says the molded forms, this refers to human beings and all created things as vessels for that spark. And so even in all this chaos, there's that spark or seed of divinity. So yeah, so we have Yaldabaoth then, who's the false god, the demiurgos. Like I said, he represents ignorance and illusion. Yaldabaoth is what causes us to, like I said, archetypally represents ignorance. And when it says here, the drop revealed their molded forms through the breath as a living soul. It was withered and slumbered in the ignorance of the soul. It's giving life to the molded forms. This is the divine spark animating even a world shaped in darkness. So basically, it's this idea that you have this. So Gnosticism is a little, not all the stories are exactly the same. And so in this particular version, essentially what you're having this evil, chaotic, dark world, but drops from the divine are entering into matter that are eventually going to like transform that world. You know, it's kind of like if you had, oh God, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. I was gonna say like a poison, like you're poisoned and then you take an antidote, kind of like that. That's not a great example, but sort of like, oh, you're poisoned, you're sick, and you take the antidote. So the material world is kind of looked at as sick and chaotic, and the antidote is the drops of light, and the drops of light are immaterial souls. So basically souls that enter into matter. And so you have this process where souls are entering into matter, where it's a very difficult process because there's the veil of the spirit. They don't realize they're divine, but eventually we are going to transform and correct this world through the understanding of what we are and what existence is. So it's light versus darkness. Light entering into the dark realm so that light can undo the dark realm from within its own realm, sort of like infiltrating it, kind of, sort of. I think you get the idea. You kind of get the picture here. Let's see. So then it says, it was withered and it slumbered in the ignorance of the soul. And when it became hot from the breath of the great light of the male, and it took thought, then names were received by all who were in the world of chaos, and all things that are in it through that immortal one, when the breath blew into him. So this whole idea of like the withered and slumbering state of the soul represents, I think that's pretty obvious. It's humanity in ignorance. They are divine light, but they're in matter, but they don't know what they are. And this idea of the great light of the male symbolizes the active force of divine wisdom awakening the soul. So usually maleness is represented as like active, and femaleness is usually represented as receptive. So you have this active force of divine wisdom that is intended to awaken the soul. And these names that they received signifies the awakening of identity, purpose, and understanding. Because all this is about gaining higher states of awareness. And so what happens when you get a name? You get an identity. You are defined. So this giving of names is purpose, identity, understanding. The soul starting to recognize that its true nature, that it's divine. Let's see. But when this came about by the will of Mother Sophia, so that immortal man might piece together the garments there for judgment on the robbers. All right, so this is the will of Mother Sophia. And it's happening through immortal man. Remember, they're like one being. So here's the idea. It's basically like there's this singular being that's both male and female. The female aspect is called Sophia. The male aspect is called immortal man. Sophia wants to create on her own. She creates on her own. Oh no, that gives birth to the evil god of the Bible, chaotic world, darkness, etc. So then Sophia and her male aspect come together and do a couple different things. One thing, create Christ, or generate, not create, but emanate Christ, which Christ represents the awakening of divine knowledge, the archetype of us coming to an understanding of what we are. And so there's this active force of awakening being sent, I guess that's not the best word, but sent to the material world. And remember, these are the reason why I'm kind of hesitant on that word is because remember, these stories aren't literally true. They're symbolic. So it's not like there's a bunch of beings up there that are glowing in light and shooting down rays of enlightenment or anything like that. It's about the idea that we all have that divine spark within us. It's there. We need to activate it though. Christ isn't like someone we need to worship. Christ just symbolizes, because Christ was trying to tell us, hey, you are divine. So it just symbolizes, Christ is a symbol of a catalyst of coming to self-knowledge. And that catalyst can take many different shapes. It can take shape as you reading something in a book or watching a video or having some psychedelic experience, or remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. But there's many different ways that you could have that catalyst that makes you go, oh, wait a minute. Holy shit. Everything's different than I thought it was. I'm not material. I'm divine. I'm immortal. So that is what the archetype of Christ is representative of. So we can understand like immortal man as almost like our higher self, because we are all pieces of that divine light. So it's the divine essence in each of us. It's not like some savior figure. It's our higher self in each of us. And this piecing together of garments symbolizes the layer of understanding that we have to weave to reclaim our nature. We have to put together these garments of understanding to understand what we are. And then there's the talk of the robbers. It says, a mortal man might piece together the garments there for judgment on the robbers. The robbers refer to the archons and the Aldebaoth. And the archons and the Aldebaoth, just like the eons aren't literal beings, they represent, like I just said, like immortal man can represent your higher self. Christ can represent catalyst for awakening, etc. The archons and the Aldebaoth represent things like ignorance, anger, distraction, illusion, everything that seeks to or is an impediment to us understanding our true nature, our true reality. So this is about overcoming those forces to be able to reclaim our spiritual power. That's why they're called the robbers, because they took away, they stole our spiritual essence, not literally, but by flooding us with ignorance. So then he welcomed the blowing of that breath, but since he was soul-like, he was not able to take that power for himself until the number of chaos should be complete. That is when the time determined by the great angel should be complete. And now I have taught you about immortal man and have loosed the bonds of the robbers from him. Okay, so this is important. So Jesus is saying, hey, listen up. I taught you about immortal man. And remember, immortal man can represent your higher self. And have loosed the bonds of the robbers from him. How did Jesus do that? Well, because he just told you the truth and brought knowledge and gnosis, freeing you from ignorance. The bonds is the bonds of ignorance. Christ broke those bonds by providing the knowledge necessary. Remember, it's all symbolic. This is a symbol for a catalyst that occurs in your life that releases the veils of ignorance, reconnecting you to your true self. And that's what Christ's teaching represents. It represents truth that frees us from the limitations of the material world and to awaken to our immortal nature. Nothing to do with worshiping him or him even being a real person. None of that matters. It's just a story. And it's a story, though, that's very powerful and important. So Jesus continues by saying, I have broken the gates of the pitiless ones in their presence. I have humiliated their malicious intent, and they all have been shamed and have risen from their ignorance. Because of this, then, I came here that they might be joined with that spirit and breath, and might from two become one, just as from the first, that you might yield much fruit and go up to him who is from the beginning in ineffable joy and glory and honor and grace of the Father of the universe. So here we have this ultimate union of the soul with its divine source. From the two becoming one. This symbolizes the integration of opposites, male and female, light and dark, positive and negative, active and receptive, intuition and reason. It's the conjunction phase of alchemy. It's the individuation of Jungian psychology. It's coming into wholeness of understanding and knowledge and unity with all aspects. So this whole thing is sort of like emphasizing how one needs to overcome duality. There's this error that occurs from Sophia creating on her own, and then basically the rest of existence is fixing the existence of duality, right? Like so from Sophia came duality because she created out of balance. So the world of duality was created, but duality is an illusion. So we need to overcome this duality to realize what we are and transcend the material world. Again, one thing that I want to say about that is that I think that's all well and good, but on a personal level, and what I believe about reality is that duality, the illusion of duality, is not inherently bad, because guess what? The illusion of duality is how we're able to have an interaction together. Because like I am here and you are over there. If everything was totally and completely unified, we wouldn't have any sort of meaningful experience. So illusion isn't necessarily bad. It's like when you play a video game. It's a lot of fun, but it's an illusion. It's not real. So the world of duality and illusion isn't necessarily inherently evil, like the Gnostics say. What becomes bad is when you think that it is real. When you think that separation really exists, then that's when you get in the mindset of like, oh, well, my race is better than your race, or my gender is better than your gender, or my nation is better than your nation, or my God is better than your God. That's when you have a lot of problems and a lot of issues. It's sort of like the ego. The ego isn't a bad thing. It's what allows you to have identity and consciousness. But when you use that identity to identify as the ego, that becomes a problem because you're not the ego. The ego is a powerful tool that allows you to navigate consciousness. If you didn't have the ego, you'd be an instinctually driven animal. That's how your instincts would take over. You just would eat and poop all over the place. Now, so you don't want to destroy the ego, but you don't want to identify with it. You want to realize, oh, I'm much more than the ego. I'm the higher self. I'm the inner star. I'm the true self. So very similar to do with the world of duality. The material world. It's not inherently evil, like the Gnostics say, but our ignorance, taking the illusion to be true, is when problems arise. It's like if you're playing a video game. A video game is a lot of fun. If you think that the video game is real, you're going to have a lot of problems. The video game would take on a completely different feel, and probably wouldn't be fun, depending on what kind of video game you're playing, probably wouldn't be fun anymore if you thought it was real. I mean, it depends on the video game, but you know what I mean. If you're playing like a video game when you're battling aliens or something, you probably don't want to believe that that's actually real, or you're going to be pretty damn terrified. So same thing here. I like Gnosticism. I think it's great, but certain things I don't agree with. I don't agree with that like, oh, all duality is inherently evil. It's not. We'd be really damn bored without it, but we want to realize it's an illusion. Like when we go watch a magic show, we don't want to think it's literally true, or else we're going to start all worshiping David Blaine and making temples to Chris Angel. That's not good. We don't want to do that, but it's still fun to watch. And so we can understand that it's an illusion, and maybe even like, not necessarily know how the trick is done, but we enjoy it because we know that it's something for us to engage in a healthy and positive way to get enjoyment and have positive experiences. That's what we need to do in this world. We need to create a world where we are enjoying each other's presence, enjoying the experiences that we have here, and not getting trapped into thinking that duality is real and thinking, oh, well, again, my God is better than your God, and my nation's better than your nation, and my race is better than your race, and my gender is better than your gender. That's when you're going to get into a lot of problems. But anyway, this idea of spiritual growth and leading the soul back to the origin in divine wholeness. And there's a lot of really great poetic things here that Jesus says. It's really cool. I've humiliated their malicious intent. They've been shamed, etc. And he's talking about the two becoming one. He's talking about the reunification. Reality went from unity to multiplicity, and Jesus is talking about it going to unity again. And that is what happens in existence, but it's a cycle. It goes from unity to multiplicity to unity to multiplicity to unity to multiplicity to like breathing in and out, or a heartbeat, or day and night, or death and life. They are complementary to each other of a process, and some parts of that process are hard and uncomfortable, but ultimately we have to realize that, you know, it's sort of like the end of existence, or that point of, you know, so we go from unity to multiplicity, then unity again. Going to that unity again is kind of like trying to beat a video game. That's like the end of the game. So yes, we are in a sense trying to get there, but the whole point is to enjoy the game while we do it. If you didn't, if you just skipped all the way to the end, well, it'd be boring, because at the end, there's nothing to do at the end. So that's the point, is that we are trying to get to the end, and the end is great, but it's great because of the journey that we led to get there. That's why it's interesting, because once we get there, well, we're just going to do it again. So the whole point is to create conditions where we're enjoying the game while we get. That's why we want to create a world that reduces unnecessary suffering, eliminates unnecessary suffering, and create a teleocratic world where we maximize the quality of life for every individual and the collective, so that we can still have healthy growth and even healthy competition. There's nothing wrong with that, but not states where people are unaliving each other and essaying each other, and people are starving. And you just look at the news, just turn on the news for 5 seconds, and it's a whole shit show. That does not have to be how existence is. And it's really appalling that it is like this. I mean, sometimes I'm baffled that humanity has had so many thousands and thousands of years to get their shit together, and they just haven't. And it's not even that hard, really. It's just like, hey, step 1, don't kill each other. But apparently that's just a crazy idea. But anyway, I think we're going to stop there, and we will pick it up next week and probably finish the Sophia of Christ next week, next Thursday. Remember, this coming Monday, we are continuing the alchemy stage. This stage of alchemy, we're talking about separation, which has to do with integrating the shadow self. So that's going to be really good. Make sure that you are there for Monday. Become a member, get access to all my members only stuff, videos, PDFs, a lot of stuff I create for you guys. So check it out. And it helps out the channel. Check out my book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Shout out to Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, DB, Nusalina, Dallas, Digital, David, LaDonna, Grace, Kira, Val, and everyone else. And I know I need to update this, but thank you all very much.